Welcome, Patricia.
Hi,
Hi. How are you doing today?
I'm well. How are you?
Awesome. How's your day going?
It's going very well. Thank you.
Good. Thanks for joining me on here. I'm excited to talk to you. Here's some of the story. I've heard bits and pieces as we've talked about Caitlin, but I'm
Yeah.
really excited to hear, like I mentioned in my email, about the parent-led team that you guys have got going for the past couple of years.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I was thinking about that as coming into this. That might be something that, we can discuss if you had some questions and I can just explain some of
yeah,
our process.
Yeah, I think that'd be really helpful, really valuable to other parents to hear. They're always looking for, the best fit option available to try and find a team that's, right fit for their player. So
Right.
let's start with kind of the early years. Just take me back to like when Caitlin started playing basketball, and kind of tell the story up to date of what's worked and what's not, and whatever you're willing to share there.
Yeah, that sounds great. I would start with for Caitlin and for us as a family, it wasn't basketball wasn't even on her agenda at all. It wasn't an interest of hers at all. And around 8 years old, she was a friend of mine who worked at the rec center in our community, had reached out and said, gee, I know Caitlin's, at this age and we need a player like in an hour to come and fill in. And Jim and I, my husband and I, encouraged Caitlin to just go and help out this team of girls that just needed some help that night. They just needed one more player to play the game.
Yeah.
That's kind of really what sparked her interest in
Okay.
basketball, amazingly.
Cool.
She was hesitant to go, didn't really want to. We were like, come on, it'd be nice of you to do. She went, she played and fell in love. And that's what started it. So she joined the team, the rec team, the community team, and she stayed there playing with the travel team. It was a travel team. And that was the beginning of it. So she did not join the school team until this past year, I believe, because I think she was too young at that time. So she was playing rec ball or community ball at that time. And then
Right.
so she really didn't have an interest in playing with the school team until this past year, which she did. And she enjoyed that as well. She was a part of the rec and community team for since 8 years old. She's now 13. We thought we'd explore some more options, and my cat's trying to join me here. And we explored some AAU. She liked that at first. It was a fast paced. It was more challenging than the rec games. And but then we quickly learned some things that really didn't fit our style as a family, which involved some of the if you made a mistake on the court, you would almost get punished. You would have to sit on the bench, or you would have to run drills the following day at practice. And it's not, Caitlin is an athletic girl. She enjoys working out and exercising, but she didn't enjoy or feel as though punishment in that way was, warranted, nor did we as a family. We didn't feel as though that made sense for us when you make a mistake that way. She's young, so she was still learning. And I would say that we as a family, basketball was never anything that we had a lot of knowledge about. So we didn't really have much that we could help her with. So she sort of learned on her own a lot of these things. So that experience with AAU quickly turned south for us. Also, it was a lot about winning, and we weren't the A team, so we ended up going out there in competition and having really lousy experiences where we would just go up against A teams and we would just get, really slaughtered. And that was tough for Caitlin because we thought that she kind of had a little bit of a natural ability and she was enjoying the sport, that it was definitely beginning to, she wasn't enjoying the sport anymore with that. So yeah,
that's what I was going to ask. Pause you there for a second. Just kind of what showed up, I guess, after playing AU, for a few games. I don't know if you finished a season there or played a couple of seasons. But I guess, after she kind of started to experience, mistakes equal punishment, how did that change how she was operating on the court? Like, how did that show up?
Yeah, it wasn't good. We noticed as her parents that it definitely took a toll on her. You could see that she, again, and I think I heard this as another parent in one of your podcasts, she wasn't going outside and practicing as much as she had. She stopped doing that. You could just see everything about her. It changed her enjoyment of the sport itself.
Yeah.
She also was very afraid to make mistakes at that point. Also, she became nervous.
So what did that bring about on the court? Like during those games, as she started to, I guess, recalibrate to that kind of mentality, like how did that show up on the court? Like what did it look like when she was playing, afraid of making mistakes?
Yeah, it definitely affected her, her hesitancy, her confidence. It's her passing the ball. She clearly, it changed a lot of her out there on the court. You could see her type of play was affected. It was basically her confidence. It was her confidence. It really, really hurt her confidence a lot, I would say. Yeah. That was probably the hardest part for my husband and I to see, is seeing her lack that confidence to just give it a go, shoot the ball and go with it. Yeah.
Sure. So I'm kind of hearing, just from past experience, like without having seen her in that situation, like it sounds to me like she was just kind of avoiding taking any aggressive action that could lead to a mistake.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
So it tends to show up as, passing up open shots, always deferring to other teammates, just kind of what we'd call in general, just avoidance behavior, right? It's like the risk is too high, the punishment is coming if I do something wrong. So I'm just going to deflect and avoid and like get rid of the ball, kind of thing. Yeah. Okay. And then what's changed, I guess, since that point? Like I know you've tried a couple other programs and like we were talking about early on here, you kind of developed your own team with a few other parents. So I guess pick the story up, I guess, from when she was in that kind of negative situation with AAU and kind of what has worked since that point.
Yeah. So, when we were with the AAU team, there were a few other parents that were also on her team. We had some discussions, and they actually introduced us to Journeyman, and the Jayhawks girls team. And so we thought, well, let's give that a try. So we went in that direction, and we loved it. We loved it for her. It was exactly what she needed at that time, that age. I think she was around 10 years old at that time that she started with Journeyman. And that was really what she needed. She blossomed again. She was like, yes, I love going up there. I enjoy playing with the other teammates that are, she knew that other teammates, their skill level was, they were a little bit older, they were a little bit better, but she enjoyed playing with them on her team. She felt as though she would watch them, observe them, and learn from them. And because of their approach of those mixed age groups and the teamwork that they I'm trying to think of words, I'm sorry, that they, that they believe in,
Yeah.
that's where Caitlin seemed to thrive again.
Right.
So with that, then kind of COVID hit a little bit. And
Mm.
so then we were trying to get back, because with COVID, the rec team, the school teams weren't playing. We didn't want to go back to the AAU again. So we continued talking with a few of the parents that had left the AAU team and gone to Jayhawks and Journeyman. And we started talking as parents, and we were like, gosh, we know that there are still some basketball going on out there. We wanted to provide our children with that opportunity to still kind of play again. So we just started discussing this together and said, wow, we know where our girls are, their skill level. Let's try to group together. One of the other parents just started saying, let's build our own team. Let's just do it. We'll build our own team. We'll do some fundraising, and we'll join some of these tournaments and move forward like that. And it just started falling together. We, as I said, we talked with some of the other parents that we knew from the AAU and the Jayhawks, and we teamed together. We discussed our financial, who was going to handle that. We had a couple parents involved, so it wasn't just one family or one group. We discussed how we were going to, how we were going to buy jerseys and the cost it was going to be, and then did some fundraising to help cover the cost.
It was just connecting the timeline. I guess I hadn't grasped when you talked to me about this team in the past, that it was really, the interruption of COVID shutting down most of the other programs that you would normally play with, that brought about kind of the need for you guys forming your own team. And then, it sounds like you did a great job of troubleshooting all the normal problems, I guess, that would inhibit, most parents from trying to take that on. Like, you solved the need for finding the right parity of players, which is always a problem. And then you solve the problem of, fundraising. It is expensive to go to tournaments and get uniforms and all that. So tell me a little bit about the fundraising side. What did you guys do to kind of raise money for the jerseys particularly?
Yeah. So, my husband and I, we both own our own businesses, and we have a lot of customers, that we work for. So we, reached out to them and asked if they would like to support us in some way. And so we had some donations from there, but we also went to some local businesses and we discussed our situation, how the girls had on our team and our families had some, we couldn't find a suitable place for them, organization for them to play with, and that we were teaming together, and we just seeking their support also. Yeah. We found it through some local businesses that were very willing to support us. And with that, the funds raised really cut the amount down to about $100. And even this season, almost no money out of our pockets as families to be able to buy the jerseys and to join the tournaments. And so we also we went through our local rec center and our school to provide us with free, no cost practice times. So we utilized our local community to pick a time during the week or a couple times during the week that we're able to go there with the group of girls and practice prior to the games.
Awesome. Yeah, that's another big problem solved. What most teams struggle with, especially going back a year ago, like a lot of the facilities were closed down, so it was nearly impossible to get any gym time. And so, yeah, I think negotiating that, like telling them what you're trying to do and the needs you have, like most organizations are willing to try and help you out, especially when they have gym time sitting empty a lot of the time. So that's great. So with the rec and the school, you're able to patchwork some practice time together to make it work. So that was what, once or twice a week that they were practicing then?
Yes. So we were able to secure twice a week with them. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then how did you calibrate, which tournaments to join? And, you talked about being kind of a B team when she played AU and having to play, the A team bracket all the time. So, how do you guys calibrate that when you're going to a tournament to figure out, what level of competition is appropriate?
Yeah. It's still a bit of a challenge. This is our second season with this, doing this as a parent-led group. And it's still a little bit of a challenge because I still find that we're going up against AAU teams.
Yeah.
And when you provide your information to the tournament organization, whoever it is, they pair you up. And so you still end up sometimes against teams that are not quite your level, a little bit higher at times. Sure. But we really go into it with our girls that we're trying to help them understand the approaches, that we're not always going in it to win, although that's nice, but that sure. Experience is what's important.
Yeah.
And the teamwork, that the sportsmanship, we really push that with our girls because that is what we want them to take with them out of this experience.
Yeah.
And so we again, it's been still a little bit of a challenge. We're about half and half. We've lost half and won half. So it's not terrible given that we're parent organized and led and
right.
Yeah.
Oh, it sounds like, I think it's trending toward, what I see as ideals, where it's very much player empowered, when they're on the court, they run some practice, but we don't have any really knowledgeable coach that the team is centered around and is directing everything. It's kind of, we facilitate everything to the point that the players are there in competition, and it's kind of up to them to, work through the chaos and, figure out how to win a game or two in, some, like you said, some wildly different levels of competition they're probably going to find across different tournaments. So I think that's great. I think most parents seek out AAU because it's seen as like the highest level of play, and they want their player playing against better players. But I think a lot of that, like you talked about, the culture of driving always toward winning tends to disempower the players and even, cripple them, I would say, in some ways, like Caitlin experienced, where she's, inhibited from taking action because of the fear of mistakes. And the pressure is so high to win the game that she really doesn't want to let her teammates or her coach down by making a mistake. So she'd rather not do anything. And, you guys have kind of created the opposite, more positive environment where like it's okay to make mistakes. We're here to, play and gain experience and, work on our teamwork and sportsmanship skills. And, winning is way down the totem pole, so to speak, of our priorities. And so, they're a lot more empowered. And again, they don't have a coach that's really directing them, scripting what they have to do. It's a lot of player experimentation that's being allowed on the court, which I think is just fabulous. So I don't know if we can kind of formalize, I'd like to build like the checklist of, all the things that you've kind of worked the kinks out of, and like have a checklist for other parents to use, like, hey, like figure out fundraising, figure out your local rec for practice time, find the 3 or 4 tournaments a season that, really are a good fit and have a good culture for, what you want to see, and, get your own team going. I think more and more, I think the culture of basketball is tending toward the player and the parents, in some cases, being empowered to really go where fits you the best. It used to be very much centered around, the school system. There's the one school coach in town, and if you don't make it on that team, like, you don't get to play basketball. And, AAU has opened that up, but there's still a lot of programs out there. And some parents find, like you did, like just none of those are really a fit for what we want for our child. And so, why not start your own team? It doesn't have to be, its own organizational entity. It's just like, verbal agreement. These 10 parents are going to get together and, make this happen and make, design a really good environment for your child. So I commend you on all the work done to try to bring that about. I think it's tremendous. Thanks. So, I hope to continue picking your brain about that, and hopefully, this podcast will definitely reach some parents that'll be inspired by that idea, and maybe we can do I don't know, do a document or a workshop or something, or just give provide another chance for you to kind of share what you've done, maybe with your other parents that have been involved or something, and get more of that information out there. I think a lot of parents could be very encouraged to hear that you've done it and made it work for multiple seasons in a row already. Like it's a possibility that I think other people would want to take advantage of.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I guess I want to kind of circle back to the more of the problem side. Maybe you can talk about, kind of where Caitlin was at when she started working with us a few weeks back, and, kind of where you were at seeking help at that point would be great.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and to discuss, like you mentioned, our parent-led organization, our team, I should say, not organization, but our parent-led doesn't really have anyone on it that has the experience of coaching. So, and knowing that, and knowing, the experiences we've had is for Caitlin, with town teams or rec teams, the coaching for her has been, I would say, just all over the place. She,
Sure.
hasn't had one coach that has given her, consistent advice on how to on what to do for herself, and how her body should be positioned when she's shooting, or the fundamentals of basketball. And so and because she loves it so much, we know for her, she's be going into high school now, that if she wanted to continue to pursue this academic interest, that she would need to then really secure herself in that area of the and she's, as I said, she enjoys it so much. She's really been, I guess, a little bit self-taught, I would say, because we don't have any of that knowledge either. So coming to you is, we had noticed you had commented on one of the Jayhawks, I think, like Facebook. So that's where I noticed, okay. You had made a comment, and I was like, oh, what was that? And so I just, did a little researching, and I thought, oh, wait, this is someone who might be able to help Caitlin to really fine tune her skills. And so she, so far, since coming to you, we noticed a difference already. Her confidence level has just spiked out on the court. She is what? Oh, sorry, my husband was mentioning. She's definitely more positive approach to it. She enjoys coming up to see you, and looks forward to her practices with you. She is thinking more right now. She's still, I think, in that transition period of somewhat adjusting her, the little things that she needed to tweak, as far as like where her feet are, where her arms are. So she's somewhat in a little bit of a transition period, but I definitely noticed that her shots are going in more, and she doesn't hesitate like she would before. So it was definitely, we came from that moment where she had dropped the confidence. She was hesitant to shoot. She would pass to someone else. Now she's more likely to take the shot. And so we noticed that already, and we're looking forward to her, to see more of that for her.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. It's cool to see some, some results right away, even in a few weeks' time. And, I always look at just simplifying what a player has to think about when they're on the court. I think that was definitely the case for Caitlin. Like you said, she's played a lot of basketball at this point, and she's, pretty, I'd say pretty gifted athletically and basketball skill wise. Like, she has a lot going for her, but, I think somewhat from probably the leftovers of how she was coached in some of those teams where, mistakes were the absolute worst thing in the world and to be avoided at all costs, kind of like we said already, kind of inhibited her. And so, simplifying that down to, these are your options. Like shooting is always correct when you're open, and, driving comes as a secondary option, based on what your defender does. Like building in just some simple things like that can really make a big impact. It's always one of the rewarding things for me to see is, we didn't even really change much physically. It was just like change your mindset, like think about it differently, and then everything kind of flows downhill.
Yeah.
And then, I always really enjoy seeing a player be able to create what I call concrete confidence, where, there's the fluffy kind of confidence, I always talk about, yay, go be your best self, do your thing, Caitlin, yay, could be maybe somewhat helpful from some people. But it's never, my role is always like, let's build, the 7 layers deep of knowledge about what you're doing and why you're doing it and how to do it. And then, confidence is just kind of the emergent property out of that. She knows exactly what to do in a certain situation from her feet. One dad described it as from the sneakers up, which I've kind of borrowed and used now. I like that way to describe it. But, really building everything we're doing from the sneakers up allows her to really have absolute confidence. Like, I know this is the right thing. I know that this is the right thing to do. And I don't have to think about it, right? There's not a lot of distractions or, pressure of thinking about a mistake. It's just like, we did 20 reps of this and I know to do it. And now in the game, like I see that situation and, she's off and running with really I would say the skill set she already had, just making it, easier and simpler for her to operate like that. So that's always, always a big, warm and fuzzy for me when I see that start to happen, especially when she gets to live competition. That's really translating.
Yeah.
And then, the other thing you talked about is like kind of being in the transition period, which I think is a very accurate way to describe it because, often most players are operating in kind of the unconscious mode, I'm just playing, reacting instinctually to whatever's in front of me and using whatever, skill level I have. And, what happens when players start to work with us is that they're suddenly pulled out of that into a very conscious thought process of, oh, my feet do this and my dribble does that. And, actually slows them down. Like they could be on this trend of improvement and they start working with us, they're actually going to crash for a little while and start to build that up and, hopefully level up to a higher level of ability eventually. But that transition period can be tough, especially with shooting. There's a certain psychological impact of, missing shots that can really inhibit a player, really have a negative impact, so we try to make that dip a shorter and quicker one when we can, because, we start to bring their conscious attention to their shot and they start missing more shots. It's like, oh my gosh, my life is going to end as a 13-year-old missing shots. But, we start to build the puzzle pieces to make that shot work better and more functionally, mechanically sound and faster and all those other pieces. And then shots start going in and start getting open for more shots. And, all those pieces start to stack up again. And then hopefully it turns into, a positive experience that's going to, really have some staying power and stick with her, in all levels of competition as she goes forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I would have to just add too that having the opportunity for her to come and have that one-on-one and not have that outer distraction from either friends or that even that just the distraction from having anyone else really be there watching her makes a huge difference,
right.
for her.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, we actually talked about that a lot in our last podcast episode where, I was kind of relating the different levels of pressure that players have. In the game is one thing where, we're really in a fishbowl where there's teammates and coaches and fans, parents, whoever, like everybody's watching you. And if you make a mistake, it's like, it's horrendous for a middle school player, especially. And then, even in practice, like you're saying, your peers are there, your friends are there, you dribble off your foot, they're going to giggle at you and you're going to try to never do that again. You want to go hide. And then, we take that away and it's just her in the gym with a coach. And, kind of our approach with that is we like to call it unlimited attempts and a really high expectation, so it's like, you are going to get this right, but we don't care how long it takes. Like, we're going to break down, the infinitesimal little pieces as needed to get all of them to work together and make it work. But, we really have no expectation for you to do it right on the first or the 15th try. Like, if we need more attempts, high expectation for the end result, and really infinite attempts allowed makes that much more relaxed. And then, the line I always say is the private failure and public success, where, she gets 100 repetitions of, failing, making mistakes, working out all the kinks, in that private environment. And then she's at least more willing to go try that, in practice or eventually in a game, because she has that, maybe 100 repetitions under her belt where she actually did it right with the coach, confirming she did it right while she was doing it. And, eventually, she's got some of the other pieces now with our film system and so forth. Like, she can watch herself doing it right on camera. And it's like, okay, I do know how to do this. Like, next time I'm in practice, like, I'm going to go try that behind the back pull up jump shot, because, I know that I know how to do it. Right. And I think it's one of the most important reasons I think that we have to do one-on-one training. Yeah. One of the reasons I enjoy it so much is that, like you said, taking away all the other distractions, all the other pressures, like, we can just make an immediate jump to a much higher level of practice by, keeping our focus right on what we need it to be with a single player and a single skill at a time.
Right. So. And this is really the perfect time for her moving and transitioning into the high school.
To
be a part of that team. So this is
right.
time for her to really feel that foundation, that confidence that she's, moving into that arena with that. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, we usually end up working with players in some kind of transition period, whether it be, from the rec level trying to make their middle school team, or, 8th grade or 9th grade year. Some players will do after they've played their freshman year, they're like, wow, that was a really faster pace and kind of showed me what I need to learn. And so now I'm ready for more. Or, like Caitlin's situation, like, I'm in 8th grade. I know I just came off a couple of COVID seasons. Like, high school seems like a big challenge, and, I want to get ready. And hopefully what we try to look at ourselves as is kind of the accelerator, the leverage where, every minute she's on the court going forward is going to have a bigger impact, having done the work with us early on. Yeah. And so, all of this summer into the fall ahead of tryouts into high school, like, all of those court time minutes she's going to have are hopefully going to be a lot more impactful and get her, more and more confidence building toward tryouts versus, really going into tryouts nervous that I don't know what I'm doing and I might get cut in my first year of high school. Like, that's kind of the worst possible scenario for a player to be in. Right. So I commend you for, as parents, getting ahead of that. A lot of parents will call us in November, hey, tryouts are in 2 weeks and my player hasn't touched the ball in 9 months. And, what can you do for us? Like, I'm not sure how much we can do for you. But, getting ahead of that by, 6 to 9 months is always my recommendation. Helps a lot, just for the player's comfort and peace of mind. If nothing else, they're going to feel a lot more prepared.
Yes, right.
So, wow, this has been an awesome conversation. Anything else you'd like to add?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, if anyone ever had any questions regarding, like, if, the parent run, I could try to come up with some answers, or if you have any, any yourself, I guess I would, be happy to try to get other parents involved to answer. Yeah. Or I've talked to you, some other parents about your organization too. So, cool. Hopefully we have some upcoming interests, that they're going to be seeking out your guidance for their children too. So
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, we really like.
I think with the, as far as the parent-led team, like I said, I think we should try to formalize kind of what you guys have discovered out there, and, create like I don't know if it's a PDF flyer, or, we could record a video just kind of walking through the steps, whatever that looks like. But I'd be very interested in kind of making a project out of that, and, packaging it up in a way to say, like, hey, parents, like, here's how to do it. If you want to go start your own team and, find the right level of competition for your player. I think it's a fantastic model that you guys have created. So
awesome. Yeah.
Appreciate you sharing about that.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm great. I guess I would also just add that for Caitlin, and if anybody whose, child is really interested in basketball, and like you just mentioned, if my child hasn't picked up a basketball for 6 months, I always feel like for Caitlin, even when she goes just a few days without playing or having that basketball in hand in some way, like, you've got to keep with it. If it's something you want to do going into high school and your child is really serious about it, just make sure that they're at least getting that ball in their hands a few times a week and practicing. I think that's a huge, I don't know.
I think that's, it's great advice. I think it's hard to motivate. I always talk about, like, I'm not here to coach motivation. Like, I don't want to spend the time, cheering them on to get them motivated to just try. Like, I want you to be wanting to try, and then I'll help you, get better at trying. And so, you mentioned that Caitlin had dipped for a while, like she wasn't that interested in practicing the driveway. But, one thing I always talk about with that is, most player experience in practice is, the two ends of the spectrum. They're doing really boring, stationary, like dribbling skills type work, or they're doing 5-on-5 or 5-on-0, team strategy practice or scrimmaging, and they don't really do much in the middle. And so, what we are always trying to work toward with all of our players is what I call applied practice, where it's like actually taking a game situational context first. It's like, here's what's happening and here's why we're doing this dribble move, instead of, staring at the wall and dribbling. And, I think that's always been my best recipe to get players motivated. It's like, hey, you're using a ball screen, and here's where the players are positioned. Like, here's the dribble move you can go do to use the ball screen and get the basket. Like, oh, that's pretty fun to practice. Like, I can get better at that. And it actually relates to something I'm going to see in a game and doesn't just bore me to death. Right. And, the same with shooting. Like, a lot of players will, count, hey, I worked out today, and it was really, I shot from the grassy side of the driveway on one side, and the ball bounced over to the other grassy flower bed, and I shot from that side, and I did that for 30 minutes, and, I'm good. And, actually having some tools and some pieces that they can go, implement and actually have an impact, I think is what a lot of players are seeking. And, something we try to provide. So anyway, I'm glad to hear that Caitlin's back at it and motivated out there. And I definitely agree with what you're saying. If they want to be a serious player, they need to be, at least 3 days a week doing something with a ball in their hands, to whatever extent they can. And we're always offering our free drop-in, like, come do a session with us and see what it's like. We do our free eval process. Like, come let us, evaluate where your player's at least give you some guidance. Even if you don't want to sign up for training with us, like, hey, here's what we see. And, like, if you're going to practice on your own, like, here's what you could focus on. I think everybody can benefit by just having some focused intention when they're doing that kind of driveway practice. So.
We're looking forward to the rest of her, meetings with you. Again, like I said, we've seen the improvement already, and she, more importantly for us, she enjoys it. She enjoys coming up. She looks forward to coming up to you and being a part of it. So, awesome. That makes a world of difference for us. So,
well, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a great conversation. I appreciate your time coming on to chat with me here.
Yeah, sounds great. We're always happy to do it. Thank you.
All right.
Fighting too.
We'll see you on the court next week.
Sounds good. See you
soon.
Right. Bye.
Bye.